Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. We are back with coachingforrelevance.com. That's the website. That's the name of the company. The man in charge, Randy Swaim, joining us, who's really helping bring freedom to potential as an author, as a pilot, as a coach, as a Hollywood movie star. Or basically,
Well,
yeah,
maybe not the star, but my
but
story. Yeah.
you are the star. It's your story. But really, there's so much. I just commend you. I've known you for many years now, and I feel like there's always something new with you, something positive, something good. But that's because you're that type of person. You give
Yeah.
and you get back the good. It's that karma in you, but you are here to help so many people, which you have dedicated your life to doing. And I know you're on a nonstop mission with your coaching, with your book, with the film underway, and so much more. So please introduce yourself to new timers out there. If there are any new timers today saying, who's that guy? This guy sounds very busy.
Yeah. Well, my name is Randy Swaim, as she said, background and actually uh, throughout my journey and stuff, have been related to pilots and jet pilots and stuff like that. And I'm still doing that, still, developing and teaching and certifying jet pilots. But I'm also like you said, a Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach. And really for me, I'm also with the Institute for Organizational Neuroscience, I'm a certified master level neuroplastician for ION over in Germany. A couple of my friends there, and I'm also a founding fellowship partner with them. And,
hmm
and so I work together with them. And so it's just, but as you said, what I've had people ask me when I'm going to retire, and I go, when I take my last breath, because you
God
know what?
bless.
I'm going to run through the tape. And it's not just to call attention to me. That's not
Nope.
what I'm about,
Nope.
but it's to bring insights, to bring little things that uh, other people kind of bring into their journey and awareness, and they become much more successful. They become much more amazing in their world. And that's what it's all about. Even after 20 years after I take my last breath, I don't mind if somebody doesn't remember my name, but you know what? Hopefully they remember one aspect, or maybe read my autobiography or watch the movie or whatever, kind of thing, and just gain an insight out of the story that lets them apply something to their life that's a little bit different than they had seen before, and it made a big difference. That's what it's all about with me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for being here. And what did you want to just start off discussing? We brought up the movie right off the top. I just have to ask you, tell me about this life story, this movie. What's been happening in Hollywood besides everything else? I mean, fill me in on this. And who picked up the story? How did you start pitching this? And I can't believe it is where it is.
Well, I'll tell you that the sponsors from Podcast Business News Network actually contacted Podcast Business News Network and said that they wanted to, uh, from what they had been aware, I guess, of my story and all, they had wanted to kind of uh, make a movie uh, of my life journey and everything. And so I was called with that, and we came to an agreement with it. And about 18 months to 2 years ago, a Hollywood recording team came to Dallas, and we spent 3 days recording aspects of my story. And then they, went back, and Hollywood has been sort of defining the movie that is sort of a little bit of part of my story. And it's really aligned with my autobiography that's on Amazon. And what was told me when he called me about a week ago is he said that the last thing that Hollywood is doing right now is taking a few of the scenes and finding some good background music to put behind it, kind of thing on a couple of the scenes for it. So it sounds like it's getting ready, and I've been told that it should be ready to go within 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that. Just one of the many accolades. Not that you want congratulations or praise. That's the type of person you are. Okay, so movie aside, what else have you been working on? I know the book you got out. What did you want to discuss for today?
Well, what we'll do, I'm gonna bring an aspect today that a lot of people would not fully understand, and it's going to be a particular sort of insight. And it sounds kind of crazy, but a friend of mine who is a youth pastor at a church, gave a talk on this. And when we were chatting after he was done, and one of the things I said, that's so relevant to my story all along and what I do and bring and everything. And I commended him for it and shook his hand and stuff. But it dealt with one word, and I'll tell you, this is a critical word when you're talking about leading your team. And because when I heard him give this and talk about it, I realized that's leadership, and that's leadership in an unpredictable, rapidly changing environment that's related to organizational maneuverability and things like that. And it's this one word, peace. Peace. And it's something that is kind of different to most people, because people need to understand, particularly leaders that are maybe listening to this, or team members that are listening to this, that are functioning in a little bit of a challenging environment that's not just rote academic and not rote superficial. But when you look at peace, most people have this word of peace where it's just like, and I'll
Hmm.
be kind of humorous with it, where they just sort of go, okay, I'm good to go, okay, kind of thing, Guess what? That's not peace. The thing is, and the question that I'd leave with you, and I'll bring a couple of insights up on this, as you're developing your team, what a lot of people do today, and they actually shortcut the development of their team's potential. A lot of manager types today, what they do is they try to, and you hear this with some public speakers, you hear
Okay.
this with some managers, they try to fire up the people's emotions
Yep.
and to get them to follow them. And what you got to understand is, when you get their emotions out of control in your mind, what you're trying to do is to control their thinking so that you disconnect their mental processing. If you understand neuroscience, the frontal lobe that does the processing and awareness and situational awareness in your brain. And you put that aside, and it takes the peace and just throws it away. A lot of people think of peace as being this where you just sit there and you're calm and okay, yeah, everything's kind of good. Okay, don't have
Yep.
to worry about nothing. That is not peace. And I will tell you that, and comes from the retired Air Force military person that I am, and a lot of my, veteran brothers and sisters out there know what I'm about to say is as true. That you've got to have peace in what you're doing inside here, and that's even if you're in the midst of combat or in a battle or something going on. You have to have peace with that. It's not just kind of sitting back in comfort all the time, but when you're leading your team and helping them develop, are you building a sense of peace within them while they are growing this? Why are they developing their ability to perform in an unpredictable, changing environment? And if you think about it, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize on this is, when challenging situations come on scene, here's the thing. It could be that it's a factor or something that you and your team would have never considered, never thought about, never imagined, and it surprises you.
Hmm.
But here's the thing. Do you have a level of peace in here with what it's showing you about your team, about as it's bringing to your team a sense of their awareness on how you have to uh, um, still perform and be successful and be, progressing in an environment that can be very strategic and almost sensing a small degree of suffering with it,
Yeah.
kind of thing. You know, what is it teaching you about your team? How do you see that this situation that you would have never expected is growing your team? Kind of thing. And if the team is getting mad, or if the team or the leader is getting mad because this just isn't happening the way we want it to, you're taking peace and just throwing it aside,
Happens a
and
lot.
you can't do that. And so it's interesting that when you think about this whole concept of peace, are you at peace even when you and your team are aware of something that was never expected and never predicted? Are you aware that while your team is discussing and amending the strategy to be able to perhaps be effective? Because here's the thing, the factor that comes on scene may initially come on as something that seems sort of suffering and everything, but you know what? It may be something that is helping you adapt and causing you to adapt your strategy to be truly effective. Here's the thing, if you have a suffering thing that comes on like that and you adapt your strategy, you may not know that that could be adapting your strategy to a point where it's two times successful down the road as you expected it to be, kind of thing. And when you have those kind of things that are coming on scene in your team's journey as a
Well,
leader, do you have a degree of peace inside here on how that is helping you and how that is really developing it for you? And also, how are you leading your team with that so that they can kind of experience that and sense that? Um, and is that really working? And by the way, with that, because a lot of people in our world today, if it doesn't go just the way they want it to, they just sort of cast blame, they get mad, they get angry, they get, all this kind of stuff. And guess what? If somebody on your team is doing that, you got to step in, because
wow.
they took the piece and threw it into the trash can. And so when you're talking about this aspect of leading teams in an unpredictable, unexpected, rapidly changing environment that you would not have expected, and you want to be truly successful. Now, here's an aspect with it. If in order to adapt your strategy to this direction, if that's going into a direction that is totally different than what you wanted to accomplish, there might be a time where you need to find a completely different strategy that is very different.
Wow.
You may have to kind of remodel what you're really looking for. You may have to grow your team to be able to be successful in that to a certain extent. When those kind of things sort of come on scene, what's your level of peace in here when you're going through that? And what
Wow.
and with your team also, and what are they comfortable with as they sit there and they process and they get a sense of what this picture should look like, and what do we need to uh, what how do we need to grow ourselves a little bit? How do we need, as individuals and as a team, really develop our synergy and our vision and our strategy and our goal, and to really develop that in such a way that it can go there? If that's the case, then the unexpected factor that came on scene may be one of the most amazing, miraculous things that we would have expected. It may be something that taught us something. It's something that maybe showed us how we can improve, or how we might need to kind of improve a little bit,
Wow.
and really go here, because not everything in an organizational maneuverability world, not everything is just rote academic and superficial. And you know what? When you're thinking of this aspect of peace, if people are starting to get vindictive and blame game and playing games and attacking and all of this sort of stuff when something is unexpected, guess what? They're taking peace and throwing it in the trash can.
Wow.
And as a leader, what I would say to the leaders out there is, if you sense that starting to encourage starting to happen with your team, what do you need to do with the people that are on your team? What do you truly need to do to help them bring the peace back into their situation, even in the midst of what they're having to do to maybe perhaps expand and grow forward, to
Wow.
maybe work together a little bit?
Ah,
um, even better than they have before as a team, and to really get a sense of what is that doing. And the bottom line is, can you have at the point of attack at that, when you haven't really figured out exactly what you want to do differently and what you need to see differently on this and work together differently on this. And it's not just one person on your team controlling everybody else. It's building that synergy and working together and all
wow.
that. But the bottom line is, when that factor comes on scene, the two questions you could ask and stuff is, how are you going to
How?
embrace this,
Hmm.
the momentary suffering and the growth aspects that's there? And also, how are you going to be aware of the point of teaching that it is doing for you and your team, to grow forward and to realize how we may need to kind of engage the processing more and be aware of this aspect of this factor,
Yeah, I know,
whatever.
like what you're
And
saying.
a
Oh,
lot of people,
go ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah,
My mind is rolling, but go
no,
ahead. I
no,
want
no,
you to
go
finish.
ahead,
No, no, I know we're
please.
talking.
I appreciate it.
No,
Go
you
ahead.
always go on a roll and I love it, but like I'm so intently into this because you're talking about leadership. You're talking about, doing the right thing for the team, being a leader. And I know a lot of, the people you work with are business owners, and I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and there might be a lot of mothers out there doing the same thing. I have a situation where my 9-year-old is on a
There,
football team.
there
And
you
this,
go.
it just sounds exactly like last year.
Woohoo!
He's on football. We had such a bad experience with the coach. Listen to this. So the coach was always
Uh-huh.
late, wasn't held accountable. So one of the parents stepped up and said, "This is ridiculous," went to the board. So the coach was done. And now this guy, who's actually a physician assistant, and he's been a friend, took over the role. And it seemed like it was going to be amazing
Mm-hmm.
this year. He starts off, we have, paperwork with a contract. You're signing the contract and respect and no cursing. And, we're going to have your teacher. You got to have good grades. You got, next thing you know, the season starts. And him as a leader, right? He started being late. I
Mm-hmm.
understand. Okay. Then he started using profanities on the field. Everything that was in like the contract, which was great
Oh,
that he had,
wow.
was cursing a lot with the kids. And well, it all came to heads a few weeks ago when they were scrimmaging another team in the same league, and the people who had the league overheard him, and the other parents from the other team were appalled that he was cursing, pushing the kids' helmets, a little aggressive, and it got to the point where they fired him as coach right before the last game. And he was supposed to be this
Oh,
amazing
wow.
leader, and he was so proactive last year getting us on board, and it was so sad. But like these situations, like you're supposed to lead and you even have a plan, and then all of a sudden you go amiss and do everything opposite it. But I'm just trying to point out here in more layman's terms, right? But people can relate as well, where like
Yeah.
this happens in all sorts of businesses, all sorts of world. But like you have this as a team leader, you have, there's something to be said for that. You look up to, you should have respect, and those leaders should have the skills to handle
Mm-hmm.
everything. And sometimes they don't. They get to those high places somehow. I don't know if it's
That's true.
trickery or what, how they do it, but it's like, and then the truth always comes out, right? But it's a shame how, the kids are the ones that are
Yeah,
suffering,
yeah.
or the business is the one that suffers. The productivity of the team, the productivity of the business suffers when
Mm-hmm.
the leader goes amiss. And hence, we want to train our leaders
So,
to be better, right, with everything. But sometimes those
mm-hmm.
leaders that aren't the right leaders kind of sneak in like little snakes. I've had that in companies before. We've
Yeah.
talked
And
about,
you know what?
you have. Hmm.
Yeah. And the story that you just described, you have my compliments on describing it, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
if even if you have somebody that's promoted to a leadership because of what they are, they have to be aware, because a lot of times when people, have a sort of disconnected vision of what this really is. Okay, I'm the manager now. I'm responsible to make this happen, so I'm just going to make it all happen. Well, you know what? Your people make it happen.
Yeah.
And guess what? How you develop your people and create that
Yeah.
real synergism in there and do it in such a way that even during challenging moments or challenging situations, your people have a degree of peace, and they have a degree of peace at what they're doing and how they're going to get there. And you know what? They have a vision on it, and they go, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, you know what? We're working together. Let's make this do it." And you know what? A lot of people, like I said, one of the sort of the dysfunctional aspects of, and you see this in a lot of sports, where a coach may think that just, I just need to make them mad and fire them up and all this kind of
Hmm.
stuff. You know what? If you give them the true, real vision and help them get a sense of what it is they want to accomplish and what it's going to take to get there, and oh, by the way, do you have a degree of peace inside of you on what we're doing and why?
Yeah.
And all that. And what happens is those people now, are there some times with the piece where some of your emotions will click up? You betcha. And
Hmm.
and but it's not because of anger, it's not because of
Nope.
dysfunctional aspects, and it's not just because you created it.
Yep.
It's because they had a vision inside and a piece of the battle we want to fight right now. And and it's a piece with, we want to be victorious in this. And if you learn how to truly lead your teams and people, and even youth, in a lot of in a lot of ways. um,
Yep.
and there's been times with my non-biological great grandkids kind of thing that I've had conversations with them that were this sort of coaching perspective, and their reaction to it was pretty amazing, kind of thing. And so, but this is an aspect of it that people have the old dysfunctional picture of what it is to be a coach or leader or whatever. And I'm going to fire it up and I'm going to just get them to do what I want them to do and all. And
Yep.
I'm not saying he was doing that. I don't know the whole story or whatever, but that is some factors that can cause what you shared there and everything. But as a leader, when you talk about this degree of peace, does your team have a degree of peace in what we're really going to accomplish? And we're going to put it all on the table if we need to, because you know
Yeah.
what? We believe in where we're going and what we're going to do. And you know what? Oh yeah, you know what? Let's do it. And when you're talking about the military or anything else, when you see your people
Mm.
doing amazing things and pushing forward with efforts that you would not have expected,
Yep.
and they have a degree of peace within them, and it's not this comfort where I'm just going to sit back and just with peace you can have a peace about where you're going, that is not necessarily emotional, but it's very clear that we're going to do everything it takes, and if we have to fire it up a little bit for a short period of time, we'll do that, and we'll make it happen. But it's one aspect of it. If the leader is trying to fire up their emotions so that they can control them, and that's one of the old dysfunctional kind of mindsets. A lot of times, if all they're doing is firing up the team's emotions so that the leader can just dictate to them and control them, then guess what? You're disconnecting their mental processing. They're
Hmm.
disconnecting their brains. And guess what? When certain factors come on that are totally unexpected, you, the leader, may not be there. You may not even be aware of it.
Yep.
Do you have a confidence that they're going to have a degree of peace about stepping forward for the right action to really be successful with that particular factor coming on the scene and things of
Yep.
that nature? And so when you talk about this degree of peace, it's not just sitting down and having coffee and just, whatever. It can
Yep.
be inside of you with where you're going, but do they have clarity
Hmm.
on that vision and all of that? And those are some of the aspects that a lot of people don't think about, because when factors coming on the scene, guess what? It may be a short degree of suffering because we have to kind of learn something about ourselves,
Well,
about what we need to do differently, how we need to work together differently. How are we going to support each other if one person on our team is really nervous about something?
got it.
How are we going to build that degree where we all have peace in what we're doing, and how we as a team are not just being successful, but we're growing and we're developing as well, kind of thing. And as a leader, you don't like to put it this way sometimes, but guess what? Sometimes when you see what your team is going to do, it'll create an insight in your mind sometimes that maybe you didn't expect, kind of thing. And you go, cool. Yeah, cool. And so those are just some aspects that when you're talking about this degree of the peace in there and all this and how that can fit into these situations, it's just an insight on that. And we can it is just a valuable, like I say, it's just a valuable insight on being truly synergistic,
Mm-hmm.
um, working together, having a degree of oneness. Doesn't mean we're all the same. One of the things I posted on social media this morning was a picture, and it talked about how diversity and synergism can be very aligned
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
absolutely.
Everybody's a little bit different, but you know what? You got one spirit. Each person brings slightly different skills sometimes, but you know what? It's a synergistic spirit that your team has. And guess what? When you have that and you create that within your team, they can have peace in what they're doing and why they're doing it and where they're going and what they want to accomplish, even when it's a struggle. And it's just something to think about when you're talking about this one aspect of it.
Beautiful. And we are almost out of time, so we'll kind of have to wind down the next 2 minutes
You bet.
to yeah, figure wow, there's always a good conversation. You are enthralling. You are just you always have a lot to say in a good
Well,
way.
thank you. Well, I
You're
tell you what,
so inspirational to so many
well,
people.
thank you. And I'll tell you, I just so appreciate working with you. I know we've kind of worked together on this for a long time. And I know uh, the first four videos we did are on my website kind of thing.
The
And people can,
originals, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
from way back when, but it's always a pleasure. I really value you and Steve both, but,
Love them.
totally
Thank
value
you.
you as a friend and sort of a colleague. So, it's an
And
honor to be
anything
here with you.
same here. And in closing today, did you what do you have planned? What's happening next for you? Do you ever like do anything for yourself? Because you're always busy working. Do you take some time off? Do you have any travels coming up? Anything exciting I should know about my friend Randy instead of my
Yeah,
coach
yeah.
Randy?
To be honest, most of my time off is just around here, just relaxing, kind of having fun, and there's not a lot of there's a lot of stuff that I did, early on in my life and stuff, but just kind of looking. I just look for new people that I meet, and not to sell anything, but just to meet as friends and but there's just so many aspects that I'm a part of. The ION, like I mentioned, and the airport, uh, PBNNN, and my church. Actually, I help out over at the church and stuff with some of the people there that I really care about. And so it's just, and also, as yesterday, I was with the Trinity Trojan Talk, the high school here, about 9 miles from me. And about once a month, I go over and I partnered together with the chemistry teacher for I think about the last 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And go in, typically once a month and speak to her class on something. Yesterday, we focused on the concept of respect and how you generate respect and things like that and everything. And so, uh, I wouldn't trade any of all those things. And so and there's nobody that lives in my house with me. So it's just me. If there's something where there's a couple of friends that would like to go out and have dinner, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Beautiful.
But yeah, don't travel quite as much as I used to. And, cause I'm very busy with this and very busy thinking
Love it.
about processing going forward and everything. So,
So committed, so dedicated. Randy, tell us the website how we can contact you before we go.
okay, it's coaching for relevance. I think you can see it on my background up here, and if you go to the website there, if somebody wants to get my autobiography, once you're on the home page, about 2 to 3 seconds after you're on the home page, it comes up with a book banner, and right under the picture of it, there's a little link that says "Get your copy." If you click on that, it takes you right to Amazon, where you can
Beautiful.
get it if you want. But Coaching for Relevance is my website.
Great.
And if you go to the very bottom of the homepage, it has my email and my cell phone number. I don't, as you know, Jill, I don't do sales calls. I don't really
Yep.
whatever. If somebody has an issue that they need some help with, yeah, we'll come up with something. But
Beautiful.
I just build friends and build relationships.
Thank you so much. You have a great day. Always a pleasure, darling. And we'll talk hopefully next week. Thank you so much. Gotta go.
Sounds
Bye.
good, Jill. Take care now. Bye bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.